Alright y'all, here is another play along with Social Hazard video. This one is going to be Asylum. Asylum was track 4 on the Hard to Let Go album, and in order to play Asylum, you're probably going to need an electric guitar, and you're going to need to tune your guitar down to E flat, but we're also going to do something extra, and we're going to play in drop D. Of course, since you are in E flat, it's actually going to be a C sharp. Okay, so right, the top string, the low string matches your D string. And for this song, it really helps if you've played other songs by other grunge artists before, right? Like Heart Shaped Box, you know, or Alice in Chains. Same type of chord progressions, all bar chords, right? So it's just, we're mostly going to focus right here on frets 3 and frets 5. Okay, so 3 and 5 is going to be sort of the window of opportunity for Asylum. Okay, and you're going to have to know how to bend strings to play this as well. So if you're not familiar with how to bend strings, let's go through that on the first run. Okay, because here's what happens. The first thing that comes out of the gate, right? We're here, open, right? Awesome. And then with your middle finger, you're going to put it down on 3, and you're going to pull it downwards, dragging it. And hold. Like that. A lot of people find that it's helpful to put a finger adjacent to it, right, next to it, so that you get more power on the string. It helps you kind of pull it forward. So if you're new to bending strings, it might take you 3 fingers, it might take you 2 fingers to really get that pull. Okay. And then the guitar cuts out, and there's a bass drop, right, all the way down, and then it's those bar chords. I'm only playing really on these 2 strings and occasionally the D, right? So when you're in drop D tuning, you're mostly playing to your low notes. So when the verses come in, there's kind of this part, right? How you do that, leave your finger on the 3rd fret, and this one's just going to tap. Right, we're just tapping. You got to tap pretty firmly in order to get the notes to come out, but that's essentially what you're doing. And that's pretty much the gist of the whole song. If you can play that, you can play pretty much any part of it, right? Going, don't know where I'm headed, don't know what I'm gonna do. Asking your advice, the only one who really never asked me to die. Oh, coming from you, the words are so true, and you're not gonna do it too many ways. And never even day, you're on the same page, and I never really had a clue. Now, full disclosure, so the scream part is kind of unique. I tried it in the studio, Chris tried it in the studio, and neither one of us could quite get what we wanted. And so the producer had this great idea. We stood on opposite sides of the microphone and screamed at each other. And so what you're hearing is actually like layered screams of me and Chris. But it's also kind of one of those things where it's something you can do when you're young, and as you age, you kind of lose that ability. So now I just kind of turn the microphone out to the audience, and you can just kind of yell along, because I can't do it anymore. There's like techniques for screaming like that. There are certain artists, like screamo artists, that do that like constantly all the time, or metal artists. There's some different tips and tricks that you can do for your voice. But like I said, now that I'm older, I really just can't do it. So I can't really show or demonstrate how that works anymore. But it was both of us screaming into the microphone at each other. The solo is going to be up here in D minor. And again, this one, on this bend, you're going to want a 3-finger bend, okay, because it's really far, especially on an acoustic. When you get to that part, you're playing bar chords, and this is where it gets weird because you're going to actually bend the entire chord, and so that's kind of some things that require maybe a stronger finger than some people have. Um, and we switch down. Of course, it's going to sound a lot better on an electric, right? 'Cause there's a lot of places where I've done that string pop thing, right? We talked about the string pop with the thumb. It kind of gives you those like extra high notes there. It hits those harmonics, but on the acoustic, it kind of just, it doesn't really make it. But that's the whole song, right? So if you can play that. Then you can pretty much play the whole song. And I guess the backstory behind Asylum, we wanted something heavier, right? Something more rock oriented, right? Something that kind of like was more true to metal, probably, or grunge than what we had been playing. It's definitely like probably our hardest song. And it definitely was to record as well. I know Brandon spent a long time on those straight eighth notes, right, with the hi-hat. He probably spent 6-7 hours doing that same thing over and over and over again in the studio until we got it absolutely perfect. And some of the notes that you hear in there was really awesome. We actually used a 100-watt bass amp. So we got some just really powerful, deep, dark tones on it. Love the way that it turned out. I did both of the vocal tracks on it, so I'm harmonizing with myself. And it turned out perfect, exactly how I wanted it to. What Asylum is about is, again, this is my senior year of high school album. So essentially what's happening is you're forced with making very big life decisions, right? At a time when you're not really necessarily there yet. You're not necessarily sure if you're ready. Maybe you don't know what you want to do. And so the Asylum is kind of the mental box that you place yourself in, right? It's those limitations that you put on yourself. And it's also kind of about all of that advice that you start to get that you didn't necessarily want or need, or that's not helpful. And that's Asylum. That's what it's all about. So you actually wanted to know this one, and now you do. Asylum.